Okay, folks, let's see if we can just do a little bit with JASP here just to kind of give you a heads up, give you a head start. And next week we'll be focusing strictly on first couple of sets of statistical stuff and using JASP to generate it, looking at the questions it answers, things like that. So I'm going to open up my version of JASP and share that up. Okay, let me see if I can get it to share. Okay, now if you're running, if you had to load the earlier version, I forget 9.2 or 9 point something, as opposed to the latest version 10.2, you may get a slightly different look, but it will be essentially the same. Like all software, statistical software, it basically requires you to load data. The JASP will interact with SPSS data files. It'll interact with R data files. It'll interact with SAS data files, but it will also interact with CSV files, basically an Excel file that's been saved out as what's called a CSV, or comma separated variable file. And it's a special type of text file that carries all the data. It just doesn't have all the formatting pieces that Excel files will have. Once you get data into JASP, then you can save it out as a JASP file, and that file then saves the data, the analysis, and the results, the outcomes, all in one file. And one of the limitations of JASP, since it loads everything, it's basically what's called a front-loaded file. It loads everything up front, and so all of it has to be in your machine's memory. And so it's the limitations of JASP are simply the limitations of your computer's working memory. Otherwise, it can handle anything you throw at it. It's limited by your computer's memory. And so I'm going to pull up a particular file. Let's see. Let's see if I can get the. I'm going to pull up the first file that is up on As You Learn for JASP, and it's this example one file. Now I'm going to pull, notice there are two files here. There's a JASP format file, and then there's a CSV file. Looks like an Excel, except it's slightly different logo to it. And so I'm going to pull up the Microsoft Excel, comma separated CSV file. And so you get a data set. Now, let me see if I can get this slide to someplace. once you begin to do something with the data set, the JASP has pull-down menus, very similar to SPSS type stuff. Just going to pull down some descriptives first. And so this is a descriptive menu. I'm going to pull down descriptive statistics. There are a couple of types of variables here. There's the response variable, which is continuous. And you'll notice it's continuous because it has a little ruler-like thing, ruler logo over here. Recode dose, it doesn't know exactly what that is, so it has this basic generic data file, data class here, but it's actually categorical. And dosage, which is also categorical, but has 4 different levels. And so let's say we wanted to look at the response variable. We could click it over into the variables box, just highlight it and click it over. Then there's a bunch of pull-down menus down here. One for plots and one for statistics. And so we'll do a plot and do a distribution plot. That's basically like a histogram.
I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure, go ahead.
I've been having trouble opening the JASP application. I had downloaded it from the link that was on As You Learn. I'm using a Mac, and it says it downloaded as a disk image. And when it comes up, it has a green icon that says JASP with a blue arrow, and it also has a folder that says applications. I've been double clicking the JASP icon, and it says verifying JASP, but it never ends up opening the application. I don't know if I downloaded it wrong.
Okay. Yeah, no, you didn't. But depending upon the version of your operating system on Mac, and that's one of the problems with Mac, you may have to go back and download the earlier version. If you go to the JASP page, let me see if I can get out of this share for a second and go to the JASP page, and I'll show you what I mean.
Okay, because I don't think I've updated my Mac in a little bit.
Yeah, well, that can create an issue.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let me share this page on different share here. Okay, this is the jaspstats.org download page. Should be the link. And if you have, Megan, are you still there?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I lost you there. or Hannah, who is it? I forget.
It's Megan, sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay, can you see this share?
Yes.
Okay. If you look at having trouble installing JASP under Mac OS,
okay.
Take a look at our installation guide. Well, if you go to the installation guide, all it's going to tell you is you might need to download a previous version. And so if you go to this link here where it says previous versions, and download the 9.2.
Okay.
Download that one for Mac OS, and that should come up as something then that you can run.
Okay, thank you. I remember the other class you were talking about that, but I guess I just wasn't thinking that my Mac wasn't updated.
Yeah, it's real funky. It's real funky with the Mac, And they've kind of done the best they could, but Mac has all these security features on it that make it a little bit difficult to work around some of the operating systems. And so the earlier versions work a little bit better, and they should work okay, that 9.2.
Okay, thank you.
Now you'll have to probably delete off, trash the later version.
Oh, okay.
And go ahead and slide that into the, trash bin to get rid of it. And then, otherwise, well, it'll probably just do away with it anyhow. So, but it would probably be better if you just did away with that earlier version.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. Where was that? Let me go back over here to the. Wait, I found Jasper. There it is. Okay. Now, notice as we kind of there's some default statistics that come up. Now, here's something about navigating JASP. There are 3 different windows, so to speak. In this version, you can slide between them. With the earlier version, you'll have to kind of click them up and down a little bit. But there is a results page, and this thing, JASP, is continuously updating. So as you enter data and select, options and things like that, it automatically updates the result page, and it's continually updating. There's the processing page. This is the page where you're actually selecting what you want it to do. And then there's the data page. And with this version, you have these nice little arrows that allow you to slide back and forth between. And there's also these little buttons, you can click on those too. But these 3 elements are always there. And if you kind of don't like the way they're sharing pages, if you're really careful, you can slide them a little bit and get, kind of a different, well, I can't get this one to go today. I guess I don't have the fine motor skills today to do it, but anyhow, there are these drop-down menus below that give you the options. And so we'll leave a distribution plot in there. There's also a drop-down menu for statistics. And these are all the different options for the statistics that you might display. And the mean is the most useful central tendency measure. Here's that standard deviation that I talked about on the normal distribution. And it's got the minimum and maximum values. So if we look at the results page, you'll see that it's got these, now the results from the selections that we made in the statistics menu for the response: mean, standard deviation, minimums, and maximums. And here is the actual distribution of values. And so the mean is 42.1. So the mean's down here someplace. So this is not really normally distributed. It tends to cluster toward the center, but it's not really normally distributed. Now, these particular plots and things, for example, you could click on this. I'll get back over there. Once you get it kind of selected what you want, you can go in and click on this. You can copy that image and go and paste it someplace else. Stick it right in Word, stick it right in a PowerPoint or whatever. And so it lets you take data directly out of the JASP program and put it over in some document or PowerPoint or whatever. And it's all, as best they can, it's all APA formatted already, the tables and stuff like that. Now, once you get this process working, and let's say you want to close this out, if you close this out and you exit out of it, it will ask you, save changes to workspace example 1 before closing. And if you don't save them together, or if you don't want all everything saved with it, you can tell it to discard. But now I'm just going to save it out as example 1. Which I already had, but we'll save it out. Now, if I want to go back to it, I can just go to that folder where I saved it and just click on that JASP file, and it'll open up JASP and all my data and everything will be right there. And that's one of the real advantages of JASP, is that it has the ability to save all that stuff with it. And so it's a nice little program. Now, you can have multiple versions of it running. You can have multiple data sets saved in different files. You just have to make sure you name them so that you can remember what they are. And so it's, in lots of ways, it's a much better option to do statistics if you're going to do, not a whole lot of high-level stuff all the time. If you're just using it to analyze a little bit of data here and there, it's a much better option to do statistics than, some of the other stuff that you're kind of left with, either SPSS or SAS or, Excel or something like that, because they all have quirks that you have to learn. And they're all much more quirky than JASP is. I mean, it's very intuitive and it's very kind of quick and dirty way of doing statistics. I've even run some real high-end stuff that last couple of papers and presentations I've done that I've used JASP as opposed to, something more quote-unquote traditional to work with. And you don't have to know any programming or anything like that to be able to work with. So I'm kind of sold on it. I think it's a nice, plus, it's free. And the last time I checked, in North Carolina, you can get SAS if your organization is, signs up through SAS to get it. IBM is now charging through the nose for SPSS. I think the individual version of it, a full version for an individual, like $750 or something like that, which is, organizational copies are also expensive these days. And so a lot of places are kind of shifting away from it. And Excel is just limited, and it's awkward to do a lot of statistical stuff in Excel. So I'm kind of a JASP person these days. I can still do all the other stuff too, but I just would prefer to do JASP these days as much as I can. So next week, we are going to play with JASP, and we're going to learn the first couple of statistics that we want to work with, and then I'll give you some assignments for the couple of weeks there that we're not going to meet. And then when we get back together, we'll be adding the next piece of the puzzle. Questions? Megan or other folks, if you run into individual issues, just give me a yell, send me an email and I'll try to kind of work you through it.
Okay. It's still downloading the other version. It's just taking a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it should work better. If not, let me know and we'll see if we can, troubleshoot it a little bit.
Okay. I can always try and, I guess, upgrade my Mac system because I think I
that might be better for you in the long run. Yeah, it's going to create other issues for you somewhere down the road, I think, probably. All right, folks. Well, I will post these videos up a little bit later this evening as soon as I get them all saved out and processed and all that. And otherwise, I will see you next week. And hopefully we'll have more visitors next week. And I'll have a full screen of you that I can look at. And not that I mind just the three of you. That's fine. It's okay. But, you know, I just worry that the rest of the troop might not get as much from the videos as they think they might. So certainly can't ask questions. Not that you ask many, but All right, folks. Well, I'm going to cut off the recorder and I will see you next week.